Hi everyone and welcome. My name is Holly Spears and I'm the Project Officer for the People and Culture Research Program area at AMPC, and I'm joined here today with my teammate Amanda Carter, the Program Manager for People and Culture at AMPC, and Shane Goodwin, and I believe there's a few others online too, so thank you for joining. Now, I'd first like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land from which I'm joining you virtually from today, the Widjabul people of the Bundjalung Nation, and pay my respect to elders past, present and emerging. I also extend that respect to the traditional custodians of the land from which you're all joining us from today as well. Now, it's my pleasure to introduce you to the speaker you've all come here to listen to, Carli Phillips, the CEO of Corporate Wellbeing Hub. Now, Carli does some phenomenal work in the workplace wellbeing and mental health space, and AMPC have been proud to support her across a range of projects within the Australian red meat processing industry. Today, Carli will be sharing some of the key findings from her current work, along with practical resources and tools that are available for you to take back to your workplaces. So, without further ado, Carli, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Holly. Afternoon, everyone, and welcome. I'm just going to re-share my screen for everybody. It's lovely to have you all here. If you want to jump in and say hello in the chat, that would be great. In addition to Holly's acknowledgement of country, I'm dialing in today from the land of the Bunurong and the Boonwurrung people of the Kulin Nation, and I'd like to pay my respects to elders past and present. I'd also like to acknowledge anyone on the call with lived experience or the caring of those with mental ill health. We will be talking about mental health and wellbeing today as part of this project, so I want to acknowledge those people on the call as well. Can I just double check with everyone? You can see my slides in full screen and you can hear me in audio okay? All good. Thank you so much. We are going to kick off. This is an interactive event. I've got quite a bit of information to share with you, but by all means, pop your questions or your comments in the chat box as we go through. I will keep my eye on that. I've also allowed 15 minutes at the end of the session today for Q&A. So if you want to keep the questions to then, you're welcome, or pop them in the chat and I'll see how we go as we move through today's webinar. Most people on the call probably have interacted with me at some point along this project. If you haven't, welcome to this webinar. It's lovely to have you here. My name's Carli Phillips. I lead the wellbeing research for AMPC, which is the research I'm going to share with you today. I am an international wellbeing keynote speaker, mental health first aider and nutritionist. I want to hear a little bit about you, so please jump in and introduce yourself in the chat. What we're going to do in today's session is I'm going to share two things with you all the way through the webinar. I'm going to share with you the research findings from this project, and I'm going to share with you free resources that have been developed specifically for your industry. They have been delivered in 5 pilot sites and they are now free for you to access. That's the good news. So you'll be able to see all of those. That is across 3 topics in wellbeing. The first one is mental health and wellbeing. The second one is physical health and wellbeing. And the third one is workplace wants and needs. So let's dive in with topic number 1. I'm going to start off sharing the research, a little bit of the data, but I'm going to do it by sharing some insights along the way, try to bring it to life for you as we go through. Can everyone still see my research slides coming up now? Beautiful, thank you. Okay, the first bit I want to share with you is taking all things together. Over the past 2 weeks, I mostly feel like I was. Now, the biggest number that we had respond here was employees in your industry saying they were living well despite struggles. And the next biggest group said they were not feeling terrible, but just getting by, which is not fabulous. I would put that in the orange bucket. We had 14% on top of the world, so really thriving, and then we had 13% really struggling. That group in particular, we want to pay lots of attention to make sure they are safe and that the people around them are safe. And I'm going to talk about that a bit more in a minute. The biggest cause of struggles during the last 2 weeks has been, number one, dealing with people. Surprise, surprise. I mean, this is really a consequence of poor mental health, right? This is when people are struggling with their own health and then they get irritated by other people, or maybe other people don't behave well, and dealing with people becomes a real issue. Closely followed by physical health and then mental health. So that shows you some of the causes as to why people might be feeling like that. Continuing on with mental health data I want to share today. When I'm struggling to care for my well-being at work, the first person I reach out to is, now it's always friends and family, no matter what industry I research, it's always friends and family. We would expect that, perfectly normal. What worries me most about this industry is the second response rate. I would never tell anyone I was struggling. Those people may be at risk to themselves or to others if they are not reaching out for help, if they are not reaching out for resources and happy talking about their struggles. Next in line was my boss and someone in my team, which is good, right? That they're saying they will reach out to peers or to managers. If your peers and your managers know how to respond to that. So I'm going to talk about how we teach people how to have those conversations, but making sure they have the skills and the confidence to respond when someone says, hey, I'm not feeling okay. You know, if someone says, are you okay? And the response is no, do you know what to do? If you don't, please start there. Make sure you are upskilling everyone so that we've got people to reach out to internally. Do you have at least one person in your life you can talk to about your mental health? Have a look at that number. 16% said no, they didn't have one person. So just think about that for yourself, sitting there today watching this webinar. Are there 16% of people within your own workforce who do not have one person they can talk to? That one person might be you. So make sure you know how to have that conversation and to support other people. That's the data that we collected on mental health and wellbeing across 5 different pilot plants. Out of that came a number of resources that we developed. The first one is how to create a mentally healthy workplace. Now, this is an organisational guide for leaders, particularly senior leaders, maybe HR, work health and safety leaders, whose responsibility is to make sure you have a mentally healthy workplace. It includes a little bit of information about the psychosocial safety regulations, but it's much broader than that, and I'll show you that in a moment. We also created 2 all-employee resources. Don't worry about scanning these codes now, because I'm going to give you a code at the end that has everything in one place. It'll make it much easier for you. The first one is financial fitness course, because we found out that finances caused a huge amount of distress, and I'm sure that is not unique to this industry, and that number has been increasing even since we did the first lot of data collection. And the second course is a mental wellbeing course for your employees, just to learn the basics of mental health, the protective factors and the risk factors, all those basic lifestyle factors that they can do to help protect, but also to uplift their mental health and wellbeing. While we're on the resources page, it's really important to talk about both mental health first aid and EAP. And that is because I see both of these resources being really underutilised in this industry. So I want to encourage you to, in addition to downloading the free resources, please reach out to your EAP and make sure you have a really good relationship with your account manager. Make sure you know what services are included in your contract, because often they will include critical incident response. So if you have a traumatic incident happen at work, really important to call them and get them straight out to your plant to provide on-site support. They may provide manager assist, so your leaders can ring up and have conversations about maybe a tricky scenario they have coming up and you can talk through it. Or sometimes they even include training. So go and have a look through the contract you have to see what's available. And please make sure you have a really solid distribution of mental health first aid officers right across your plants. It should be about one in each team or one in each area so that you've got enough people around if there are any mental health crises going on. Your mental health first aiders need to be able to step in and to triage and to get those employees immediate help so that they're safe. Let me ask you this, when you see that data that I just shared about mental health and wellbeing, how are you feeling? Or maybe what are you seeing in your workplaces? Can you just jump into the chat, just pop a few words in there, either about how you're feeling yourself or perhaps something that you might be noticing in your workplace. Let me just open the chat box. You can jump in there and you can let me know either how you're feeling or what are you noticing? Are you seeing something at work? Are you noticing things in other people? I'm trying to be clever and open the chat. Here we go. Okay, jump into the chat and let me know. How do you feel when you see those numbers? Does it make you think you're not alone? Does it make you think people are worse off than you thought, better off than you thought? Or is it something else? Are you noticing other things in your workplace? Are you noticing that people are really doing pretty well? If so, let me know, jump into the chat. If you notice people are struggling, maybe the struggle is getting worse, love to hear what your thoughts are. Thanks, Graham. Surprised they're as low as they are. Yeah, and this data, it's not from this year. This has taken a couple of years ago, but we're continuously researching and updating the data. And I'm actually seeing the data right across Australia, across different industries in mental wellbeing on the decline. So that is a worry. It is the same for the whole Australian population. So we know mental illness numbers are now about 1 in 2 across our lifetime. So it is benchmark across the rest of the country. Just so you know, when you dive into this how-to guide, I'll just show you one of the pages that you'll get on there. This is how to create a mentally healthy workplace. These are the 3 steps that are really important within the framework. The first one is to protect, so that is to protect against psychosocial hazards, but also have a look in your EAP report, see what your top presenting issues are, or do a wellbeing assessment and really get some of that strong data. The second one is to support our employees, so making sure we know how to check in, how to have these conversations, where to get help. And the third one is to promote. So this is promoting healthy lifestyle, being role models, encouraging and celebrating some of the good stories. So that's one snapshot of what you'll get inside the how-to guide. If you want some additional offerings to help in the mental health and wellbeing space, I'm just sharing on this screen our wellbeing menu here at Corporate Wellbeing Hub. You can see there's a whole lot of different topics that cover mental health, physical health, productivity, team connection, even things like men's health, women's health, parents' health. So once you've got your data, you might just want to sit down and say, where do I need to go to first? What are my biggest risks? Am I lacking mental health first aiders or mental fitness or the conversation skills? That might be a really good place to start. I just recommend starting with the biggest risks that you identify. Start right up at the top of your list and make sure you try to protect your employees against the top risks that you identify. The other piece in terms of delivery is making sure that you have a multi-delivery model. So what I mean by that is compared to single format might be we're just doing an e-learning module or we're just doing an on-site training. When you do a multi-delivery model, you get much higher employee engagement and you get much better behaviour change. So for example, if you were going to do a topic on resilience, for example, I would do a resilience e-learning module, and I put it out to everybody so it's on demand. I would do an on-site talk so people can come and listen to your facilitator speak on site and get that relationship with your facilitator. Or you could do a live webinar like we're doing today. And when you do 2 or 3 different delivery models on the same topic, you're just opening up access to all employees, and they can then learn in the way that is most easy and suitable for them. I'm just going to pause here for questions before we jump into topic 2. So while we're still on mental health and wellbeing, if there's any questions or any comments on this, I'm just going to open the chat. Feel free to pop them in there and I'm happy to answer those. Or I will have a few minutes at the end of the webinar as well. If you want to keep them to there, we can have a conversation as well. All right, let's jump on to topic number 2, which is physical health and wellbeing. We'll start with the research and then we'll move on to the free resources for you. So let's look at the data. What do the numbers tell us about physical health and wellbeing? I wonder what your immediate response is. Do you think they're going to be good? Or are you feeling a bit nervous now? I don't know how bad this is going to be. I was pretty pleased overall, I've got to say, with the physical health and wellbeing. Let's have a look at nutrition first. How many pieces of fruit do you eat per day? On average, this is across about 800 employees across Australia. Average was 1.6 and it should be 2. So pretty close to that number of 2 pieces of fruit per day. The veggie one was very low, so it should be 5 serves of vegetables per day, and it was only 2.3 right across Australia. However, that is benchmarked to the Australian population and it sits the same as all of Australia. So it's not worse than the rest of the population, but I would still really like to see that number much higher. How many glasses of water do you drink per day? 4.5. It should be a minimum of 8, especially when people are doing really physical work or they're in very hot or cold environments. They really need to increase hydration for energy, for reducing the risk of fatigue and really helping to keep that concentration up right throughout the day. This is the one I've been working on for 3 years. How many milliliters of soft drink or sugary drinks do you drink per day? The initial data said 460 mils, which is an average per day. Since being out and working in the industry for the last 3 or 4 years, I would say that number is underreported based on what I see. People open their lunch boxes. I walk around lunchrooms. People open their lunch boxes and they usually have homemade or leftover food, and then they take the food out of the top of the esky, and underneath there's a 4-pack of large energy drinks, which is not 460 mils. That's like 2,000 mils in one go. So I see really high numbers of energy drink consumption, which is a huge risk to cardiovascular health, to diabetes, to poor concentration at work, to poor sleep, to insomnia, so many things. So based on this data, we created a lot of information on nutrition and on education on healthy eating and drinking. The alcoholic drinks per week, to stay within the health guidelines, need to stay below 10 per week. That is not 10 in one session. That is 10 spread out across the week, so about 1-ish a day. What was interesting is, see that graph I've got on the bottom, is we have a huge percentage of people in this industry who don't drink at all. Most of those were for religious reasons. Some were for health. And then the second biggest group are drinking more than 20 per week. Anecdotally, some of those numbers were 60 or 70 drinks per week, so well over the 10 to stay within the health guidelines. So again, I've done a lot of education in healthy drinking, looking at alcohol, looking at sugar, looking at water, everything that falls under that nutrition bucket. Exercise was excellent, unsurprisingly. So minutes of intentional cardiovascular exercise were over what was recommended, so 36 minutes per day. And then strength and toning activities should be about 2 per week. And on average, it showed up as 1.2. But when we did focus groups and we talked to lots of people on site, they said, look, the physical work that I do is using my muscles and is resistance all day, every day. And so we can take that into consideration as well. Because see how the question was outside of work? So that was kind of going to the gym and doing weights. But a lot of the work they do is very physical anyway. So it was all ticks on the exercise side. Smoking and vaping. Smoking of cigarettes in Australia is now below 10%. In this industry, it's nearly 18%, so almost double that. Some of the vaping rates I will just share with you, which is a data point that we brought in a little bit later in the research, was shockingly high, much higher than the smoking of cigarettes rate. One plant that I researched had a vaping rate of over 70%. And you would just see it everywhere. Everyone would just walk out. They'd all have vapes in their hand. It was just part of the culture. It was also interesting that when we asked about weight, this is a self-assessment, right? Employees said, most people said, oh, I'm probably at normal weight. But when I look at data from the Sisu kiosks, the highest risk that comes up is obesity and diabetes. So the numbers actually tell us something a little bit different. The self-assessment put 258 employees for this group as overweight. So I think that number is a concern, and we should be really addressing fitness, healthy weight, and making sure we get that diabetes risk nice and low. How many hours sleep do you get each night? Okay, it's time for confession. Can everyone put their number? How many hours sleep did you get last night? Put your number in the chat. Be honest. We're all friends. The research showed us an average of 6.5, but the average is interesting because some people came to work on an average of as little as, are you ready for it? 3 hours sleep. Average 3 hours sleep, and they come to work and they're using sharp knives and heavy machinery, really putting themselves at risk. How come your numbers are all so good, people? Oh no, there's a few smaller ones. There's a lot getting over 7 or 8 hours. That's pretty good, pretty good. So please be aware, when your employees are coming to work sleep deprived, they are at high risk of accident or injury. And we absolutely do not want to see anything like that happen at work. So we did quite a bit of sleep education. It's actually in the mental wellbeing e-learning course for your employees. So there's a section on there about sleep, which is really important. And we also asked about medical and dental checkups. And the numbers weren't too bad. The green, which are the two biggest numbers, were within the last year, which is healthy. But there are quite a big percentage, like 30%-ish and over 50% for the dental, that was more than a year or more than 5 years ago. So we know this is particularly challenging for anyone on a working visa, or maybe they're on the PALM labour scheme. We're trying to get access to doctors, trying to make sure they're staying on top of their dental and their medical health is really important, having those checkups. So that might be something you want to take back to your workplace and have a look, see if there's anything else you can help in that area. Based on this physical health and wellbeing data that we've collected over medical and dental, over sleep, over nutrition, over exercise, we developed 4 resources, which are all available for you to download. Just as a reminder, I'm going to put a QR code up right at the end that's got everything in one place for you. So don't worry too much about the QR code now, but just as a snapshot, what you can see on the screen is a how-to guide for organisations, how to improve nutrition guide, and I'll share a few tips with you about that in a sec. And then we've got a how to reduce smoking rates guide, and we include vaping in that as well. So the top resources are for organisations. The bottom ones are for all employees. So there's a healthy eating and drinking course, and there's a quit smoking and vaping course with a ton of free resources in there for employees to support them to help quit smoking and vaping. So I just want to dive inside this just to give you a quick example of what some of these things look like. I'm going to dive into the how-to guide for improving nutrition, just so you can see what's inside that free resource for you. Excuse all the words on the screen, but this is what you're going to see when you go into the course. One of the pages, one of the strategies is on canteen healthy choices. Now, boy, have I taken a lot of photos of canteens across the red meat industry in the last 3 or 4 years. I wish they looked like that top photo, but they don't. They look like the bottom photo. I see a lot of yellow and brown. I see a lot of fried food. I see a lot of salty food. Sometimes I see a little bit of greenery. Sometimes there's lettuce inside a burger. Sometimes I see fruit, a little fruit cups or fruit salad cups, which is great. But we have a really long way to go. And I understand this is challenging, right? Because not everyone has internal employees running the canteen. Often you will have a third-party provider come in. They're trying to run their own business independently, and it's difficult trying to offer that advice. But what we have been doing is education on site and empowering employees to make healthy choices. So what I hope is going to happen when you read all this information, you start to put some of these things in place, like traffic light labels, portion control plates, teaching people how to build a rainbow, all those little tips that are in there. What we want to see happen is people start making healthy choices and they start requesting and buying more of the healthy stuff and less of the unhealthy stuff. If your organisation can subsidise the healthy stuff, that really helps, but the education makes a big difference. And then gradually your canteen will start to put more and more healthy food in there. Exactly the same with vending machines. Has anyone put any of the healthy vending machines in? I've seen a few around and they don't contain things like energy drinks, the dreaded energy drinks. They don't contain just rows and rows of chocolate or rows and rows of salty chips. They actually contain really healthy options. So they have low sugar drinks in them. They have waters, they have coconut waters, they have low sugar kombuchas and different drinks. They have nuts, seeds, muesli bars, they have popcorn, they have tuna and crackers, all sorts of things. If anyone's got any tips for vending machines, pop them in the chat and we can share them with everybody. I would just recommend, if you haven't looked at this before, just Google healthy vending machines and swap out your provider, because the minimum you could do is offer healthy choices to your employees, and then we empower them with the education. They start to make much healthier choices. Another example from inside this how-to guide is a communication plan, because doing change in the food space, I'm not going to call it dangerous, but people get really upset when you take stuff away. So the communication is really important, that we add more healthy options, that we educate, we share recipes way before we start reducing any of the unhealthy food. So there's a communication plan that is included in your pack. As an additional offering, just to show you a couple of photos, this is me out in the field doing nutrition activation roadshow. So instead of doing a lecture style where we put people in a training room and I just teach them, you know, the data and the numbers, I actually don't do any PowerPoint anymore. I just do everything hands-on, because people learn and it's so much more fun and so much more interactive. So some examples on the tables that you can see here. One of them is all of the drink bottles you can see with energy drinks and soft drinks. And I've got all the sugar lined up and people go, I didn't know there was that much sugar inside my drink. And then the next bucket has got all the salt. And then the next bucket's got all the caffeine. Now, I actually didn't know I was consuming all of that. So The visuals really impactful, but then teaching healthy eating in a visual is really great as well. So sometimes we make up mueslis or we make up fruit waters or whatever it is, and they actually take away their cheat sheets. They take away their how to read ingredients, all these different things. So it's a practical activation, different way of educating, but much higher engagement. Okay, let me pause here for any questions on physical health and well-being. If you've got anything on nutrition or sleep or any questions there, you're welcome to ask. And we're going to dive into number 3, which is workplace wants and needs. So let's have a look at what the data tells us in this space. When it comes to caring for my well-being, the 3 most valuable supports my workplace could provide are: number 1 is health benefits. I'd love to hear, what health benefits do you offer your employees now? If you can give me a couple of examples in the chat, that would be great. Do you do flu shots or mental health days or any type of health benefit? Let us know. The more we can share with each other, the more great ideas we'll get. Number 2, they wanted wellness classes. So they wanted to learn about nutrition, or there was a lot of requests for fitness, for anything in the fitness department. And then 3 and 4 were employee assistance programs, so free counselling and mental health first aid training. Again, it keeps coming up in the data how important that mental health first aid training is. Then we went a bit deeper and we said, which benefits are of value to you? And number 1 was fitness classes. But number 1 is the hardest to implement, right? So the way I've seen this done really well is where I've seen plans partner with their local gym or their local fitness centre, and they've done a discounted or a subsidised membership. That has worked really, really well. I think I've only seen one plant with a gym on site, or that's actually done exercises on site. You could easily have videos playing on your screens everywhere with stretches and really gentle exercises for people to do in their breaks. The other thing they asked for was healthy food on site and then skin cancer checks. Is anyone on the call already offering any of those things? We also asked, which wellbeing topics are you interested in? Number 1 was stress reduction. Number 2 was increasing energy. Number 3 was mental wellbeing. I'll tell you right now, every single organisation that I research, the top 3 that always come up are stress, burnout, mental wellbeing. It's always in that kind of top 5 floating around somewhere. So anything you can do to reduce stress, to protect burnout, to help with mental health and wellbeing will be really beneficial. Thanks for your comments in the chat. Some people doing flu shots and physio, on-site physio and gym, counselling helplines, fantastic. Push-up challenge, I love that. Skin cancer checks. Oh, you do local gym membership discounts. Thanks, Paul, that's great. On-site EAP, physio, EP, massage, fantastic. Are you okay day? Thanks, Tarquin. Thanks, everyone. That's some great ideas that you guys are already doing in that space. I just want to pause here when we're thinking about workplace wants and needs. What is the one thing, like when you look at what this data is telling us and we think about your employees on the ground, what is the one thing you could do in your workplace tomorrow? It doesn't even need to be something that costs money. Is there something that I've shared today in the data that makes you think, yeah, we could start that and we could really do a much better job of that? Nutrition education. Thanks, Paul. What else are you thinking? What's something that has captured your interest today? Or maybe something that was like low-hanging fruit, might be something really obvious and you think, yeah, why haven't we just been doing that? We could definitely look at different vending machines or different types of education. So just start to think, what do I want to take back to my workplace that I can really start to make a difference, make an impact to my employees' well-being? The final question that we asked in the research we did here is, do you have any ideas or suggestions for employee wellbeing at your workplace? And boy, did we get some responses. I had some plants where I had like 8 pages of ideas came through, like so many ideas. And some of them were really surprising when HR and work health and safety and wellbeing leads actually read their report. And they were like, oh, that's actually something free and so easy that we could implement. Why didn't we do that years ago? And so what I like to do when you get your report and you've got this final question that's got absolute gold in it is go through it with a highlighter and highlight all the stuff that is free and easy, all the low-hanging fruit that you can do straight away and implement it as quickly as you can. Sometimes people say, well, why do we need to walk through that gate when our car is over there? That actually stresses me out every morning and every night. And so they went, oh, well, why don't we just open that gate? I mean, the weirdest, most abstract things come up, people's ideas. Maybe they just haven't had a place to share them before. So go through and find all your free stuff. And then the things that require budget and require strategy, you can start to build them out in your strategic plan across a year. So as you're building your wellbeing program, go in and grab all the free resources that we've already developed. You might want to do your own wellbeing audit, or we can do that for you, collect your data, and then start to bring your whole plan together. Make sure you deliver, as I said before, in a multi-delivery model so that you open access up to everybody. And that will really ensure that you've got a successful wellbeing program that your employees use. The last thing you want is to put effort in to build a wellbeing program and nobody turns up. So please make sure you build it that really meets the unique needs of your people. So customized as possible will get you the best results. Okay, I'm going to give you all the free resources now. So the 3 topics that we talked about today were mental health and wellbeing, physical health and wellbeing, workplace wants and needs. The first place that you can find all of these resources is on the AMPC Knowledge Hub. I am going to put a link to the Knowledge Hub in the chat for you, just in case anyone hasn't. If you've not dived in there yet, please go and do that. It is a wealth of information. Thank you, Graham. I missed your comment. You provide free access through your LMS to AMPC K Hub, healthy eating, healthy sleeping, healthy drinking. Excellent. That's great. Thanks, Graham. So dive into the Knowledge Hub. I put the link in the chat for you. If you go into the people and culture section, you will be able to find all of the wellbeing resources, but all the other resources that have been developed across all the other R&D projects, they are also in there. So have a really good look around and find something that will be of use to you. The other place you can get the information is from my LMS. So I'm going to put 2 links in the chat box for you. This is the place that I've actually put everything in one place to make it really easy to find. Let me see if I can add the links in here. The first one is the organizational how-to guides. So in this section, I have put all of the how-to guides in one place. So you've got how to create a mentally healthy workplace, you've got how to improve nutrition, and you've got the quit smoking and vaping campaigns. You'll find that all in that one catalogue. In the All Employee On Demand e-learning catalogue, you'll find the 4 in there as well. I don't think that link went in. Let me just double check that. Okay, this is the All Employee resources. I'm just going to pop these in the link for you now, in the chat for you now. It has got 4 on-demand e-learning courses, which includes mental wellbeing, financial fitness, quit smoking and vaping, and the healthy eating and drinking. What I love about on-demand is your employees can do that on their phone, before work, after work, anytime, and they can dive in and access them in the privacy of their own home. So really recommend that you use some of those free resources that we have developed. Is anyone here already dived into the AMPC Knowledge Hub? I see Graham has already access to LMS through. Anyone else here been onto the Knowledge Hub, or maybe you're going to go onto the Knowledge Hub now you've been to the webinar and have a look around? I'd love to hear where you're up to with having a look at some of the resources. If you are ready to go further, I will let you know that here at Corporate Wellbeing Hub, we do wellbeing programs, obviously. We do psychosocial safety systems. I do wellbeing keynotes. Down the bottom, all the wellbeing events by CWH, these are actually free. So you're welcome to join any of these online events. They're all on my website. The next one I'm doing, it's actually, we're coming into this peak season right now, this peak wellbeing season. So we've got Are You OK Day coming up. We've got Mental Health Month coming up. We've got National Nutrition Week coming up. And they all fall within about 6 weeks of each other. And it's peak time where people really focus on wellbeing. So on the 1st of September, I'm going to host one of these wellbeing events by CWH, and we're actually going to do free ideas that is wellbeing done a little bit differently, all the different ideas for Are You OK Day, for Mental Health Month, and for National Nutrition Week. So feel free to join me for any of those. We have a wellbeing learning hub. So that is a portal of 10 on-demand wellbeing modules your employees can access anytime. And I do wellbeing research for AMPC. So you might have a particular wellbeing concern or risk that you really want to research. If that is of interest to you, please reach out to me. We can have a chat and see if that's a possibility for you. I am just at the end of presenting all of the research and resources for you. I have left time for questions and discussion now. If you would like to ask me anything about mental health, nutrition, sleep, exercise, smoking cessation, anything about wellbeing in your workplace, feel free to do that. You can take yourself off mute if you want to chat. That would be wonderful. Otherwise, pop them in the chat and I will answer your questions now. In the meantime, if you would like to contact me, if you've got questions about wellbeing, you can find me at Corporate Wellbeing Hub on all the socials. And I'll put my email up on the screen for you, so you're welcome to email directly if you've got questions or comments. Okay, I've got some time now. I'm just going to open up for Q&A. If anyone wants to come off mute, you can put your hand up or jump into the chat, and I'll be happy to answer your questions. Did anything pop up for you? Was it in the mental health section? Maybe the sleep? Maybe the energy drink section, which is the bane of my existence that I keep going on, rabbiting on about everywhere I go. Especially when I see children walking down the street drinking giant cans of Monster. I think, oh, I actually saw a 16-year-old boy hospitalized. His mother told me he had a really serious kidney disorder because he'd been drinking Monster and he'd built a Monster mothership in his room out of all the empty cans and then made himself very, very sick. So I'm sharing these stories so that other people don't have that happen to you. If we don't have any questions, I'm happy to close. Catherine, yes, we have a recording. Shan, does that go out to everybody or does it go on to the...
Yes, it'll go on the AMP website and we'll put out a lot of messages to people with the link in it.
Thank you. So you'll get the recording. You'll get all of the links and all of the resources on the Knowledge Hub, or they're on my LMS. So they are all free for you to take away. What you'll probably find when you dive in and you grab the resources is you'll get a really good framework and a how-to guide. What you will need to do then is customize it. So you need to make sure you've got your own data and your own needs for your employees to customize that implementation. So well worth doing a wellbeing audit, some surveys, making sure you collect your own data. If you need help with that, let me know. Thanks for the question, Tarquin. How would you recommend integrating and promoting red meat into healthy eating? Well, red meat is part of the healthy eating plan, so high protein is part of it. When we look at a portion plate, we always recommend that half of your plate is salad and vegetables, quarter of your plate is protein, and a quarter of your plate is a starchy carbohydrate, so a refined complex carbohydrate like a brown rice or a wholemeal pasta or potatoes, pumpkin, that sort of thing. So yeah, just getting that balance right is really important. So yes, we always recommend having lots of proteins, really good for balancing your blood sugar, your energy, your muscle recovery, but getting that balance right with salads, your vegetables. We tend not to see low protein intake. We tend to see really high refined foods, ultra processed foods. So people tend to eat fried foods or processed foods. It's very unlikely people have low protein, but yeah, all part of the balanced meal. Oh, thanks. Shan's got everything. Shan's got everything in the chat for you. So the recording of the webinar will be on the AMPC website under news and events, and then in the webinars tab. Anything else before we close for today's webinar? Was this helpful for you? Did you learn something new? Do you feel inspired to go back and help employee wellbeing in your workplace? I hope you got a few new tips. You've certainly got tons of resources in there, so maybe it's a bit of homework that you want to go and download all those resources and have a look. Once you've done that, if you've gone through the resources and you have questions about how to implement or how do we do this in our scenario, maybe we've got 5 different plants spread out, how do we do that? Just shoot me an email. I'll be happy just to support you that way and answer any of your questions. All right, I think we'll wrap up today. I don't think there's any more questions in the chat, so we'll close today's session. I want to thank everyone for joining me. Thanks for being part of it. Thanks for your questions and your comments as we go through. Thanks, Tina. Thanks, Holly. I just want to encourage everyone to go back, get your resources, build your wellbeing programs. I want to wish you all the best with it. Thanks, everybody.